How's it going, everybody? This is Aliskerov, and you're listening to Story of the Fight.
What is up, everybody? Thank you for joining another week of Story of the Fight. We are going to be talking about UFC Kansas City, Ian Garry versus Carlos Prates. We'll talk about Anthony Smith's retirement. We'll talk about the Randy Brown knockout, the Matt Schnell war, all that crazy stuff. If you're not joining live, there will be timestamps down below if you want to skip to a specific fight. If you are live, hop in the chat. It makes it a lot more fun, especially when I'm just doing a solo episode like this. So yeah, thank you everybody for joining. Before we get into everything, make sure you like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave comments, hop in the chat. It really helps the channel. We're trying to get to 20,000 subscribers. We're at 15,700 or something like that. So we're getting there. But yeah, like, subscribe, all that stuff. Shout out Lewis. Thanks for joining. Be like Lewis. Even if you're only going to be here for 30 minutes, he's got school in the morning. It's late for him, but he's here anyways. And shout out Genevieve here as well in the morning. There's some bloody fights we'll talk about with Genevieve. But yeah, if you don't want to watch the show, you just want to listen, we are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Podcasts, but we highly suggest YouTube because you can see everything that we show. You can visualize everything. It makes it a lot better. And then just follow us on social media, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Reddit, Story of the Fight on everything, storyofthefight.com. We'll list all of our socials. You can click through and follow. Now that we're through that mouthful, we can actually talk about some fights. Like I said, Ian Garry versus Carlos Prates. This is the fighting nerds in a main event here with Carlos Prates. Everybody loves him. He's smoking like a pack of cigarettes a day. And real quick, shout out Austin. Thanks for joining as well. Says the card was kind of meh, not going to lie. Some of it was good, some of it was bad. I think it was overall, I had fun watching it. The main event, people are in a weird spot on because of the ending of it. So we'll just get right into it. Carlos Prates was originally supposed to fight Jeff Neal on the last pay-per-view. Jeff Neal pulls out. Ian Garry says, I'll step in. He fought on short notice against Shavkat. He'll fight on short notice again. So they move it over to this event to give, I think, 25 days for Ian Garry or something to get ready. Something like that. Very important matchup in this one. This is one of those fights where both these guys are on the come up. Both these guys look very good, despite how you might feel about them. I know Ian Garry's got a lot of haters out there. And meanwhile, Carlos Prates has a ton of fans. But, you know, they're both on the come up. They're both highly skilled. This is one of those matchups where we probably or very well could see this again down the line just because they're so like young in their UFC careers. I guess Ian Garry's kind of been a mainstay a little bit, but he's now coming into his own at the top of the division. Even though he dropped the fight to Shavkat, he was on short notice, and Shavkat's a beast. That being said, this is a fun stylistic matchup. Both these guys are dangerous with their hands, dangerous with their strikes. I would say going into this, everybody kind of probably knew Ian Garry's a little bit more complete than Carlos Prates, what with the grappling and things like that. But going into this, Carlos Prates has just been smoking everybody, smoking cigarettes, smoking fighters. Ian Garry's, I don't know, he hasn't had that like show-stopping performance. Even when he gets the big wins, there's always some weird little caveat, like he got dropped against what's his name? I can't remember. And then he loses to he has a boring fight with MVP. He loses to Shavkat. He hasn't had that like shutout performance yet, like Carlos Prates has been doing. But man, did he look good in this one? So good. Look, Austin says, look, it wasn't an awful fight, but Ian Garry is low-key boring and never delivers on his fights compared to how he talks about himself. That's kind of what I was alluding to. You can't act like you're the best world beater around and do that. Look, that being, I understand your point there, Austin, but I will say, I was very impressed with this one, actually. This was Ian Garry showcasing how good he really is. He maybe didn't get like a destroyer finish or anything like that, but for the first 4 rounds, well, I'll say that for the first 19 minutes of this fight, he looked, I thought, phenomenal. He's fighting on the outside extremely well. If you want to learn how to fight on the outside, watch this fight from Ian Garry. And every single time Carlos Prates is just walking forward, walking forward, walking forward. Ian Garry's doing a good job of mixing up his exits. He's not just every time he gets cornered, he circles off to his right or anything like that. Or he's not like, I think Israel Adesanya did a good job of that, where he would like fake left, fake right, and then circle out left. And then the next time you got him cornered, he'd fake left. And then instead of faking right, he'd actually exit right, or he'd fake left, fake right, and then explode at you. Like, you have to vary up your exits against someone like Carlos Prates, who is going to pin you up against the fence. And that's usually where he gets his finishes. If you watch Carlos Prates, he'll back people up against the fence, and then he'll feint at them and get them to react. And once they react how he wants them to, he'll snipe them. And he's good at it. He's very dangerous. And shout out to Ghost. Thanks for joining. What up, Will? Despite all the nonsense surrounding Garry, I thought his lead hand fight was really good. Good performance by Garry, but terrible fight since he couldn't actually hurt Prates. And yeah, I guess that's kind of where you're the in-between of me and Austin here in the chat, where, yeah, you can appreciate the skill set and the performance from Ian Garry, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's exciting. I just thought he did such a good job of, anytime Carlos Prates would walk him down and then get set, as soon as he would get set, he'd feint, because Carlos Prates is a very good feinter. But if you're known for being a good feinter, your opponent, if they're good, can kind of exploit that a little bit. And before Prates could even really capitalize on his feints, Ian Garry would stab him at his feints and say, almost like, okay, we know once he settles, he's going to feint and then he's going to go. I can disrupt that. And every time he gets set, when he feints, I can pull the trigger and catch him on a feint, and then I can exit. And I thought for most of 4 rounds, it was a masterclass from Ian Garry. Like I said, mixing up his exits. He wasn't, when he was attacking his disrupting his rhythm and stopping him from getting set so that he could strike. He wasn't just doing it with a jab every time. Like, it could be the jab, it could be the cross, it could be the right high kick, it could be shooting for a takedown. Like, if you're Carlos Prates, every time you get set, you're getting disrupted, but you're not just getting disrupted by the same thing. So you don't know, okay, I'm going to get set here. I know he's going to jab me. I know he's going to throw that right kick. I can counter that. No, every time he got set, it was something different coming back at him. And a lot of people are going to talk about the gas tank, and we will towards the end of this fight, but that's exhausting. You're constantly walking someone down, and every time you're like, okay, now I'm going to go, and you get hit with something that you didn't see coming, and you have to reset, and you got to walk him down again. You got to chase him down. Like, that is tiring, especially if you are a guy who hasn't gone 5 rounds in years and never in the UFC. I thought it was a very good fight from Ian Garry. This was a masterclass for those first 4 rounds, especially considering the short notice opponent. The last 6 minutes of this fight were a little different. At the end of the 4th round, Ian Garry's takedown attempts are becoming much more labored, and I thought Carlos Prates did a very good job defending most of the takedowns. Ian Garry would go for that single leg. He'd reach around and frame off of him and just kind of shove him down. Very good takedown defense, good hips from Carlos Prates on the takedown exchange or takedown defense. But towards the last end of the 4th round, he caught Ian Garry and made him stumble a little bit, and it looked like, oh, Ian Garry might find himself. This might be a momentum change. A little too late, probably, but a momentum change regardless. And then I was like, I don't know, maybe wishful thinking, because I was rooting for Carlos Prates in this one. But then the 5th round started, and Ian Garry's on his bike. He's shooting for these takedowns a lot further out now. He's not even getting past that initial defense from Carlos Prates like he was before. Now he's just getting stuck on him like he's hitting a wall. And Carlos Prates is tagging him and hurting him. And with like a minute 20 left, minute 30 left, last 90 seconds of the fight, he's got Ian Garry hurt bad. And Ian is flopping on the ground. Prates is on top. He hits him with like 2 shots, and he's like out for a second. You can see him like basically go out. And a lot of people are shitting on Carlos Prates for not being able to finish the fight at the end there. And I think I just want to give credit, despite everything in me, I want to give credit to Ian Garry, because while he was hurt and while it looked like the lights went out a couple times actually from the ground and pound, everybody's saying, Carlos Prates, why just throw hammer fist here? Just like more ground and pound here, you would have finished it. I thought Ian Garry was the one negating that. A lot of people were shitting on Prates for not doing it and not throwing, but I thought it was more Ian Garry preventing him from doing so, and not necessarily just Prates not throwing. And look, he was probably gassed because he spent the whole fight counter grappling, chasing someone down, getting your rhythm disrupted, missing, things like that, and getting hit. Ian Garry pieced him up a couple times. He's never been 5 rounds in the UFC. There's a lot of things at play here. It's the cardio is not so great at the end of the fight here for Carlos Prates, but also, first off, he's not a ground and pound fighter, right? Like that's not his bread and butter. He's got him hurt. He's got him almost out. But Ian Garry off his back or his knees, whatever you want to say, he's doing a very good job of moving. Very, very good job of framing off with his hands, preventing shots from coming down, tangling him up with his legs, doing a very good job of just making sure, just like he was disrupting him on the feet, he's disrupting his top game here, and just really making it so Prates can't get a base and a solid base to start throwing ground and pound. And when he was getting a shot off, look, it's only one or two because he's now off balance because Ian Garry's doing something. He's engaging his legs. He's doing something to make sure that Prates can't just anchor down and start unloading with some hands. I thought even while he was hurt, it's a bad look. It looked horrible with him like crawling away from him and shit like that. But he fought very well. He was very effective at preventing Prates from doing what everybody was screaming at the TV for him to do. I don't want people to knock Prates in this one. I think Ian Garry just fought extremely well, especially considering it was short notice. The other thing I wanted to highlight too earlier in the fight, Prates is high guard, heavy, and Ian Garry would throw that overhand. Overhand causes you to lean. You're leaning into that uppercut, and that uppercut was splitting the guard. There was one exchange that he really hurt Prates and had him backed all the way up against the fence across the cage. I just thought it was a very good performance from Ian Garry. He did a good job of negating the left kick from Prates, which is something that Prates wants to throw as a southpaw. Which is very good. Very good fight from Ian Garry. Outside of that last minute and a half and maybe the whole end of the fourth throughout the rest of the fifth, he looked very good. And Austin says, is there a chance under one scoring system this would have swayed the fight in his favor? I think it was close enough that, yeah, maybe. I mean, yeah, if you score the fight as a whole like they do in one, I think there's an argument to be made that that was the most significant moment of the fight, was that fifth round. The last 90 seconds or so was basically survival mode from Ian Garry, and that's not nothing. But that being said, the first 4 rounds, I thought Ian Garry did great work. I thought he did a really good job. I hate to say it, I'm not a huge fan of the guy, his personality and stuff. Like you're talking about him being pretty cringe and stuff, and I'm not a huge fan of that. But he was very good. He was very good. And now he's the official backup for the title fight, Jack Della versus Bilal Muhammad, which is crazy, right? Because he just lost to Shavkat. But this is what happens when you take short notice fights and you stay active. You can kind of seize an opportunity. I don't think he fights. I think Bilal versus JDM probably happens. But he's in the mix there, and that's how you do it. You drop a big fight like that one against Shavkat. You jump in on short notice and take out a fan favorite like this. Now you're right there. Shout out Vance for joining. No kidding. Prates had him dead to rights late round 5. Didn't seem gas, and just was more interested in admiring his work. Had a whole 40 seconds to get it done. Blew it big time. I'll be honest. I disagree. And this is why I like fighting so much. It's so nuanced that like everybody can have different reads on what happened. But like I said, oh, there goes the backlight. Like I said, I thought Ian did a very good job of negating the damage and just disrupting everything, especially his base, with just engaging his legs, framing off with his hands, escaping where he needed to. I rewatched that last minute and a half this morning, and I was, again, very impressed by Ian Garry just moving and doing something to make sure that Prates couldn't settle in and start throwing big shots. And even when he got back up against the fence and he was on his feet, if you're Ian Garry, you know, if Prates is looking for the kill shot, it's a long left hand. So he feints this way, draws that shot out from Prates, he ducks it, he's out the back door, he's back on another takedown. Like, he fought well. He did a good job. Austin says Bilal kills Ian, not a debate. Yeah, well, I think he probably beats him too. I don't know about kills him, but he definitely beats him. But yeah, that's basically this fight. The Fighting Nerds, this is their first the goalposts can't be moved anymore. For a while, it was like they're undefeated. All this stuff. Everybody in the Fighting Nerds is killing everybody. Then Bruno Brazil lost, and they're like, well, now all the male fighters at the Fighting Nerds are killing everybody, and they haven't lost. And then they're 19-0, whatever, all this stuff. Jean Silva, Bajalio, Prates. Now you can't move the goalposts anymore. This is the big one for them. This is a loss. Does it matter? Ultimately, no, it doesn't. Prates is still a fun fighter. I think stylistically, he just got completely stifled in this one. Ian Garry's a smart fighter. So, yeah, he just kind of never let Prates develop his game. And that's very important because if you don't have a plan B, game plan-wise or ability-wise, at the top of these divisions, you're just not going to cut it. You can't just nuke everybody. But that's it. Ian Garry versus Carlos Prates. We can move on to the co-main event. Zhang Mingyang versus Anthony Smith. This is Anthony Smith's retirement fight. Been doing it for a long time. This was his third loss in a row. He won that fight against Vitor Petrino. I feel like that probably he should have just retired at that point. But then he's like, let's do another one. He loses to Dalby. Let's do another one. He gets finished by Dominic Reyes. Let's do another one. Now it's my last time. And this is it. And Anthony Smith's been in some dogfights. He's been in some dogfights. And as Genevieve says, wow, what a way to go out. What a fight to go out on. Zhang Mingyang has been killing everybody he's faced for the past year or so. He hasn't left the first round. He's just been knocking everybody out. I think this is his third first-round knockout in the UFC since he's joined. Anthony Smith came out looking like the older fighter, movement-wise. That being said, he was doing some tricky things here where they'd mummy guard, they'd frame on each other, and then he'd, bam, toss an elbow over. But he'd just stand there, and you're like, oh, man, he's so slow. And then, bam, he comes in with this big right hand or a big elbow, and you're like, oh, shit, that's actually pretty good. But what happened was Zhang Mingyang was like, oh, yeah, elbows off wrist control. That works really well. And then he's like, I could do that too. And then he just went to town with elbows. He split open Anthony Smith with a big elbow. And then from there, it was kind of just a beat down from Zhang Mingyang. He splits him open. He's bleeding. And at this point, Anthony Smith's just taking damage. Do you like the name Turtle Heart? Says Ghost. Man, he always ends up in this position right here, doesn't he? Where he's getting beat up and he's like, I need to shoot. And he's shooting in kind of weird times. And then there's zero drive and he ends up in this position. It's happened a number of times. Probably worse in the Glover Teixeira fight. Man, Zhang Mingyang just tees off on him with some elbows. Again, some of them back of the head, a little nasty there. But what are you going to do when a guy's just turtling right there? But yeah, there was a few elbows to the back of the head that were pretty brutal. They call the fight. Anthony Smith just sits up, covered in blood. And you're like, damn, that's a retirement fight. That's what the UFC does, man. They give you some young killer, some young, hungry killer on your way out. They always do it. And then my favorite part of the whole thing happened after the fight. They're sitting there. Zhang Mingyang gets the win, right? They're sitting there, and all of a sudden the camera goes to Anthony Smith, and he's pointing in the crowd, and he just flips someone off, and he goes back to pointing. He flips him off again. And you're like, what the hell is going on? Then he gets up, and he starts yelling, and he goes over to the fence. And you're like, is he yelling at Zhang Mingyang's corner? What's happening? And Zhang Mingyang's getting involved. He's grabbing him, and you're like, oh, no, Zhang Mingyang, chill. And then it turns out, no. He's pointing at somebody else in the crowd, and the camera cuts to this dude putting his hands up. Holy shit, I was cracking up watching this. And then someone posts oh, no, it wasn't this guy. And I wasn't going to include this because I was like, this poor dude's getting fucking roasted online because it cuts to him and he's like, hey, man. But then Anthony Smith talked about it and he said, yeah, it was a guy was talking shit during the walkout. And then after the fight, they were flipping him off and stuff. And he looked over and it was this dude. I don't know if it was this dude, but he said it's a guy in a Nebraska shirt. And this guy's got a big N on the shirt. So I'm assuming it was this guy now. Fucking hilarious, though, that the UFC crew is wait, let's switch so people know what's happening. Normally they would like cut away to something else and not show that, but instead they're like, let's fucking get this guy. Don't you ruin this moment, this retirement. Um, and then yeah, and then in the post fight, they bring the whole family. God damn, it's a big family, huh? And first off, man, don't bring your family to a fight like this. If you're Anthony Smith, you got to know this might be an option. But maybe this makes it worth it. He's he's been beaten down before, so he's like, whatever. They've seen it before. They need to be here for this moment. And the UFC did a very good retirement package for him. And I'm trying to stay positive about it, but as Vance says, Smith gets a glorious send off with videos, but Steve gets a here's your coat and hat, get out. LOL, just not right. Yeah, it sucks, man. It's crazy. I was talking to shout out Blunderbub Joe uh, last night about it, and it's like he's like, I can't believe this is the same organization where they do something like this, which I thought was very well done. It was very cool to see someone who's been in a lot of fights, been in title fights, has really worn his heart on his sleeve about a lot of things as a fighter. To get a good send off like this, I think most fighters do deserve something like this, regardless if you think they were good or what they've achieved. Someone like Anthony, I think, deserves this package. It is very weird to see someone like Anthony get this package when we've had guys like Stipe retire with literally nothing. The greatest UFC heavyweight of all time gets nothing on his way out. And then you got guys retiring in the apex and not even getting a shot of them putting their glove like to 20 people. Like, it's just so weird that this is the same organization. It's crazy. That being said, I'm happy Anthony got it. He deserved it. Very cool to see his family get to watch that. He's crying. It's a cool moment. I like when the UFC does this. I wish they did it more consistently. They did it with Robbie Lawler. They did it with Karate Hottie, Michelle Watterson, which was weird. Didn't expect that. But cool to see. But and Zhang Mingyang, we should really be talking about him. He's dangerous. He's a dangerous guy. And at this weight class, we can take it as many dangerous guys as we can get. He called out Yusri Prohaska. I don't think they make that fight, but it'd be fun. It'd be a fun fight. But that's it. That's all we get for that fight. We can move on. Some of these we're gonna breeze through, by the way. Let's see. Onama versus Giga Chikadze. Kind of a messy fight. I think maybe by design. And maybe that just plays to Onama's skill set. He's a little bit messy sometimes, but Chikadze kind of seems like needs it to be a clean fight. Anytime it gets a little dirty and grimy in there, he struggles. They both hurt each other kind of early or first round. I think Onama put together like a 1-2-3 and goes off beat with a 3 or off tempo, right? He goes 1-2, jab across, and then stutters for a second and then throws the lead hook. And you can see that hook Giga didn't expect the hook. He thought he was done with the combination and wobbles him. Onama can't get the kill. And then later on in the fight, Giga hurts him with some hands. But the real story of this one is Onama mixing in the grappling and Giga just still not defending takedowns. And Onama did a good job of mixing them in, but man, Onama's actually kind of sneaky good on the ground. His top game is actually pretty cool to see, fun to watch. Some people were kind of shitting on this one because he didn't land a ton of damage on top, but from his positioning, his transitions, even the takedowns were kind of slick. And yeah, he edged it out with this one. And a lot of people are saying, oh, he got the takedown, but he didn't do any damage. There's been this weird, like, I don't know. There's been a rule change where takedowns with no damage don't mean anything. And it's a narrative that's being repeated, but it's not necessarily the case. What matters is effective striking and effective grappling. And they are neck and neck with how much they weigh as far as scoring goes. And yes, damage is the number one criteria, but that does not mean that effective grappling that doesn't equate to damage means nothing. I hope that makes sense. I don't know if I try to be as clear as possible at that because a lot of it is kind of it's kind of gray and it's up to interpretation. But if you read the rules, effective grappling, which does count takedowns are effective grappling, and top control and transitions, that is effective grappling. It might not lead to damage necessarily all the time, but it scores the same as effective striking. They're neck and neck. It's just normally you get damage from effective striking, so normally that will outweigh just control. But to say that a takedown with no damage means nothing is just not the case. And the takedowns and the grappling is what won this fight for Onama. Some people are saying that Giga should have won. I don't know. I disagree. I thought Onama won. Genevieve says, "Does Giga always look like this at this weight class? Because he doesn't look good. He looks sick and still dehydrated from his cut or something." Yeah, there's something like a rigidity to him that is like, I don't know, it's got rigor mortis sets in or something after weight cut. He's also had a lot of injuries. Giga Chikadze. He's had a lot of fights canceled and things like that. But yeah, that was that fight. And then moving on, we'll go into Magomedov versus Michel Pereira. Man, dude, when they scheduled this, I was like, what are we doing? This is a big gamble because both these guys really struggle if it leaves the first round, cardio-wise. And Magomedov was really teeing off on him in the first round. And when he didn't get him out, I was like, well, there goes all the gas tank that Abus got. And Michel, at that point, hadn't done anything. He really didn't do anything but survive and kind of circle in that first round. And you might think, oh, Michel Pereira knows he doesn't have a gas tank, so maybe he took the first round off. It's like, no, surviving is still tiring, and that's about all he's got. So the next 2 rounds, it was just like, what is happening? I mean, yeah, that's kind of it for that fight. Horrible fight, horrible match. You could argue going into this when they match make this, they're like, look, this has the potential to be really bad if it leaves the first round, but we might get something really fun and a finish in that first round. And they went with that, and they didn't get it. So instead, we got to watch a boring fight. Dana defended it weirdly. Dana normally shits on stuff like this, but he was like, "I've seen a lot of bad fights. That was not one of them." It's like, I don't know, man. Austin's man Fajeda never got started, it seems. He's usually one of my favorite strikers to watch, but he just didn't open up. Unfortunately, age is catching up with him. Yeah, and maybe he's just so cautious about the gas tank, and maybe he thought, look, Magomedov never has gas past the first round. I'll just take that first round off, let him gas, and then also have my short gas tank. But then the first round ended, and he was like, well, that's still pretty tiring, and I don't have any gas left. That was kind of how I read it. But yes, we can move on to probably most people's favorite fight on the card. Randy Brown versus Nicolas Dalby. And this one, we can actually show the finish because the UFC posted cage side footage on their Instagram. So please, Dana, don't take this down because you put it on your Instagram and it's not from the broadcast. So everybody can watch this. Here it is. This was a dogfight. Yeah, they're trading. This is the end of the fight. They're both just swinging at each other. And here he resets, and Randy just loads up on this right hand. Bam. And just shuts it off. It was crazy. And moments like this are really where it shows like the UFC needs to be out of the apex. Like, we can't keep having fights at the apex because moments like this happen in the apex and you're like, wow, that was crazy. Moments like this happened in Kansas City or somewhere on the road with 10,000 people and it's fucking nuts. Like the sound in that arena, the mics were clipping on the broadcast because it was so loud. Like, this is what makes the sport so good. So yeah, hopefully less apex, which I don't think is going to happen, and more fights like this. But yeah, the whole first round, Randy Brown did a good job of just he's so good at fighting long, and he breaks Dalby's nose early. I think it was actually. Can we go back one picture, Rich? Thank you. I think it might have been this one. It was a right hand that kind of grazed him and catches him like that and turns the nose completely. Like André Arlovsky broken. They were talking about Mike Perry against Luque, and you're like, oh shit, that's not good. That's a bad break. And Randy Brown is so good at fighting long. He's so good at fighting long. But one thing he does a lot is, and I noticed it a lot in this fight is, and you see this a lot in Randy Brown fights. If you go to the fights that he's lost, he usually looks pretty good in those fights until he gets clipped with something. And there's little things he does where I think maybe he gets so comfortable with his range that he's like, I'm good here and I can keep operating like this. And maybe he gets ignorant of kind of some of the like the patterns that he's repeating, and guys will eventually catch on to that. And while he's good at fighting long, if you keep fighting long the same exact way, good guys will adapt and crack you. And one of the things he does a lot is he rhythm steps a lot. He changes his stance a lot very well, and he strikes off the stance changes very well. But sometimes he rhythm steps when he's right in front of people. And I thought Dalby had a good read on that early, where he's throwing these big calf kicks, big leg kicks, and a couple times he catches him while he's crossing his feet, and that's not good. Um, and then he got a little complacent with that lead hand. And this shot right here, good timing, Rich. He doubles up on the jab, and then as he's retreating the second jab, he goes to throw like a hook off that lead hand again. So he's tripling up with the lead hand. And Dalby just steps in on that second jab and cracks him with his overhand and drops him. And you're like, oh shit, even with the broken nose, Dalby might get him right here. And once again, Randy Brown looks so good until he doesn't. And now he's on top and the blood is flowing. He's bleeding so much. And you're like, holy shit. They go to the end of the round. The cut man snaps his nose in place in between rounds. And as soon as he does it, you just see blood pour out of his nose. You're like, God damn. And I immediately pull up my phone to text Genevieve. She's already messaged me. Austin says, oof, the crooked nose. Please don't remind me. Them describing the blood going down his throat instead of down his face really grossed me out. Yeah, that's the harsh reality. And for a lot of people, they're like, how much is that going to affect Dalby? And then before the second round, let's keep it right here, Rich, for the pictures. And shout out Combat Sports Today. Shout out Phil. Thanks for joining. Watching the fights now after a night out. It's a good one. It's a good card. Some of them not so good, but there were some good fights, I should say. But in between the first and second round, I'm like, okay, he drops him. Randy Brown survived. But I'm like, man, how much is that going to affect Dalby? Now that the blood is really flowing, that can change things. But if you know Dalby, if you haven't seen his fight against Houston in Cage Warriors, it's like Cage Warriors 109 or 106 or something like that. The fight ends in the third round. Title fight ends in the third round because there's so much blood. Houston's cut up. He's got a broken nose. He's gushing blood out of the bridge of his nose. Dalby has a cut, like a 2 or 3 inch cut on his forehead, and he's leaking blood. And Goddard has to stop that fight because there's so much blood on the match that they're slipping around. And he says these guys cannot intelligently defend themselves because it's too slippery. So they call the fight. It's a no contest. And if Dalby can get through that, he can get through this broken nose. It's basically the point I'm trying to make. Second round starts. Dalby is a dog, and he's going after Randy Brown hard. He's running at him. He's throwing these big shots. And it kind of reminded me a little bit of Max Holloway versus Korean Zombie, where in between rounds, it was very clear that Max Holloway was going to win this fight. He was touching up Korean Zombie in a retirement fight. And that next round starts. I don't remember which round it was, but the next round starts, and Korean Zombie, you could see he was like, I'm not winning this fight. I might as well go out on my shield trying to take this dude out. And they just swang and bang at each other until ultimately Max Holloway drops him and finishes it. And I kind of feel like maybe that was what was happening here with Dalby, where he's like, my nose is fucked. I don't know if I can do this for the next 10 minutes. I'm biting down. I'm going to take this dude out, or he's going to take me out. And like we just watched, they're cracking each other. And Randy Brown just gets a little bit more composed there and sneaks in that right hand and drops him and gets the knockout. And man, what a fight. So good. So good. And Randy Brown, this is a big one for him. This is huge actually for him, because he's kind of been a fringe top 15 guy, and to do this in a sold out arena like this and be pretty much the talk of the card outside of the main event, that's big. So hopefully this is a shot for him to get into the rankings next. Prates is ranked number 13 and he just lost, so he's probably got to defend that top 15 status. That's not a bad fight to make. They both just fought on this card. Jeff Neal pulled out of his fight. He's at 10. There's some fun matches for Randy Brown moving forward. But Dalby, it sucks to see because I'm actually a huge Dalby fan. And I think Randy Brown, I think was booked against Prates at one point already. Yes, at UFC 309. He was already booked. So maybe they make that fight. I like that fight, actually. That's a fun fight. But that's it. Shout out to Dalby. I know he's getting up there in age, but the dude is still a dog. That's a fun fight. He made that fight fun just as much as Randy Brown did. But we can move on. We had Ikram Aliskerov versus André Muniz. I don't know what happened with Muniz, man. It looked like for a while, it looked like he was maybe the truth of the division. I remember there was one guy on Reddit that was like constantly posting, like, this is going to be the guy that beats Adesanya. And you're like, huh? Maybe. I don't know. I don't think so. Maybe by the time he gets there, Adesanya's on his way out. I don't know. And now, man, it's just been tough matchups. He got finished by Brendan Allen, finished by Paul Craig. He goes split decision with the Iron Turtle. They try to make this fight twice. They finally make it. Third time's the charm. And he just had no business in there with Aliskerov. And there's not a lot of pictures. I mean, there's a short fight. Just a first round finish for Ikram. And he gets him up against the fence, and Andre's he looks uncomfortable. I don't know if he's just worried about a takedown threat or what. But Aliskerov cracks him with the left hand, and there's like a little bit of like, oh shit, there I go. He goes down. Ikram finishes it with some ground and pound. That's kind of it. Not the most exciting fight. The finish was kind of weird, but yeah, Ikram's back on track after losing to Whitaker. So that's good. Ikram's a good fighter. He's fun. André, I just don't know what's going on with him. But we can move on. That's kind of it for that one. We're moving on to outside of Randy Brown's fight, my favorite fight of the night, Matt Schnell versus Jimmy Flick. Look, Matt Schnell, say what you want to say. He's been on the receiving end of some bad losses. He retired after the last loss. He lost 3 in a row, right? Nicolas finished him. Urseg knocked him out with a nasty one. And then Cody Durden choked him out. And then he retires. And you're like, maybe this is for the best, Matt Schnell. You've been in a lot of bangers. You've been in a lot of some you've taken some damage, but man, some of them are so exciting. I mean, the Sumadarji fight will forever be like, that's a historical fight. It was so good. And in this one, or he comes back, right? He comes back against Jimmy Flick. And this matchup, I'm like, okay, this is one that he probably won't take a lot of damage from Jimmy Flick. No disrespect, but it's just not really his game to like, he's not knocking people out. He's really taking people down, out grappling them, submitting them, and actually very fun on the ground. Jimmy Flick, cool stuff with Von Flues for sweeps, things like that, or guillotines. His guillotine Von Flue game is very cool to watch. I forgot which fight it was, but there was some really cool work from him. Maybe it was the Malcolm Gordon. I think it was a Malcolm Gordon fight. But in this one, Schnell, you can see, is a lot more comfortable on the feet. He's kind of just touch. Doesn't want to settle in too much because the takedown threat's there. And, of course, Jimmy Flick does get the takedowns. Very good. He's like glue on guys. If he grabs you, there's a decent chance you're going down. First round was kind of so-so. It was like on the feet, Matt Schnell did a good job touching him up. On the ground, second half of the fight, Jimmy Flick was on top. Not a ton of damage, but a lot of control. Okay, whatever. Give that round to Jimmy Flick probably. Second round, he takes him down again. You're like, oh, man, Matt Schnell's going to do something. Threatens with triangles. He gets an omoplata at one point. He goes omoplata. Jimmy Flick steps over. And as now they're facing away from each other, right? Jimmy Flick on top. Jimmy Flick gets up to turn around. Matt Schnell gets to his knees to shoot in on him, to build a base up to get up. And Jimmy Flick jumps guillotine. And you're like, oh, shit. Matt Schnell's from 5. Like, it was just it was a cool transitions in this one, cool submission attempts, the omoplata to escape, and then to get back to a single leg to get up, but then he jumps guillotine. Matt Schnell gets out, though. Now he's on top. Just cool scrambles, cool submission attempts, but now Matt Schnell on top is a different story because he's looking for elbows. He cuts up Jimmy Flick. It's just very different than the first round, the top control from Jimmy Flick. Third round, you're like, this is probably anybody's fight here. Third round maybe decides it. And just fun scrambles, man. Actually, at the end of the second round, Matt Schnell jumps guillotine, and he squeezes them, and you see the blood start pouring out of Jimmy Flick's face because of the squeeze. They hit the clacker for 10 seconds, and Dan Murgliata steps in and puts his hands on him to stop the fight. You're like, what the fuck? Matt Schnell looks up like, huh? And then keeps going the guillotine, and then the round ends. And you're like, wait, what the fuck? And it was the second time Dan Murgliata did that on this card. where the clackers went off and he thought it was the air horn somehow, and he goes to stop the fight, and they're like, "What's happening?" And you're like, "Man, could he have gotten that submission with those 10 seconds left if he didn't think that the fight was over for some weird reason?" Probably not, but it is really weird to see Big Dan do that. But yeah, Matt Schnell in the third round, again, just back and forth grappling. He ends up taking his back. He sinks in a rear naked choke. Jimmy Flick pulls the lock hand down. Just really cool stuff. And Matt Schnell gets the win here. A post-retirement win is very cool. And the guy is just always in fun fights. Win or lose, what can you say? He's always in so much. His fights are so much fun. But that's it for that one. What do we have after that? We had Evan Elder versus Young. We're not going to talk about it. But I do really like Evan Elder. His kick game is so fun to watch. Him going switch kick to the body 3 times in a row, and then on the last one, he switches the momentum to go right leg kick. Just a really complete fighter, Evan Elder. We're also skipping Chris Gutierrez versus John Castaneda. We're also skipping Damon Blackshear, and we're going into Malcolm Wellmaker versus Cameron Saaiman. Look, Cameron Saaiman, I don't know. You look at this picture, and they look the same size. He looks maybe even bigger, right? But man, I don't know what it is. He just seems small for bantamweight, and he's had a tough go lately. Before this was the Peyton Talbot fight. Before that was the C-Rod fight. C-Rod was his first loss ever, and then he goes undefeated for his whole career. And then, man, and he's getting finishes and stuff like that. And then he fights C-Rod, and C-Rod prospect killer takes him out. Peyton Talbot just really just smokes him. Flawless performance from Peyton Talbot. And then you're like, okay, took some time off. That was March of 24. We're now April of 25. Reset. Let's get after it. Wellmaker's coming off a Contender Series win. This is maybe a good spot here for Cameron Saaiman. But then you see the way he's fighting, and it just doesn't look like he's fighting well, but nothing really seems to be damaging. And he looks kind of like thinner. Maybe he's taller, but he's like, I don't know if maybe he can make flyweight. I don't know. But it doesn't seem like he's got the impact that he needs at bantamweight. And speaking of impact that you need, Wellmaker does, because they go into an exchange, and let's just show it actually. UFC put this on their Instagram as well, so shout out UFC for that. Watch this fucking right hand. Bam. I mean, just nasty. We'll watch it again right here. He pivots out and throws that right hook, check right hook, and just drops him. Very cool. Nasty one for Cameron Saaiman, because it is a nuclear right hook that he gets dropped with. Goes over like this, like a tree with his arms up. Austin says, when Saaiman debuted, I remember a lot of hype around him after his KOs, especially of Terrence McKinney, and then he just got flatlined the past few fights. Truly a different level in the big leagues. I think you're thinking of Terrence Mitchell. He finished Terrence Mitchell, but yeah, he really looked like something special there. And you know, he's with Dricus Duplessis, all this stuff. But Wellmaker, man, that right hook. This guy is someone to watch. He seems like a cool guy. He got a bonus. He's a full-time welder. He's like, if I get a bonus, I'm quitting my fucking job. So to see him get a first-round one-shot KO like that in a 10,000-seat arena, he gets the bonus. I mean, yeah, that's got to be really cool. So I'm excited to see what's next for Wellmaker. I haven't seen too much of his game, but because I haven't had to yet. He keeps knocking people out. That's all for that one. We'll move on to Jaqueline Amorim versus Polyana Viana. Look, Romero's not here this week. The reason is Polyana Viana lost. And anytime Viana loses, Romero has to go dark for a bit. He needs to go to a special place and get better. And that's why he's not here. But the fight was okay, I guess. They start the fight, and they're kind of touching each other with their hands. Jaqueline takes her down easily. It's like zero resistance, and then just really kind of mauls her for the whole first round. I think this was the other one where was it Dan Murgliata in this one? I think this was the other fight where he heard the clacker and tried to stop it, and they're like, what the fuck, dude? But Genevieve says Romero is that big of a Naruto fan. I don't know if it's the tattoos. But yeah, the second round starts. Jaqueline's immediately back on the takedown because obviously why wouldn't you after there was zero resistance? And yeah, Jaqueline just really and she's beating her up in mount. I thought they were going to stop it at one point in mount here. She's beating her up. Eventually, Viana gives up her back. Jaqueline gets the choke. She escapes the choke and goes elbow on the mat to try to sit up a little bit. And then from there, Jaqueline's like, okay, thank you. Because now I can really get it. And she gets the choke. So that's another submission for Jaqueline. Jaqueline's sneakily becoming someone to watch here. She's 10-1. She lost her UFC debut to Sam Hughes, but now this is 4 in a row. All finishes. We got ground and pound, armbar, rear naked choke. This is probably someone to take an eye out or keep an eye out for. Yeah, it's good stuff. Yeah, Genevieve. Also, Polyana is Larissa Pacheco's roommate when they're not in Brazil. Yeah, they're always posting stuff together. Shut up, Pacheco. We're moving on to Timmy Cuamba versus Roberto Romero. Romero looked good that first round. Cuamba couldn't really get anything going in that first round. And Romero was just doing a good job with his kicks. His kicks looked very good. Kicks to the body. I think he's thrown, was it a switch kick? I don't remember. But he's throwing good kicks to the body. And there's one. Cuamba just really couldn't get anything going until that second round where he starts putting his hands together. His corner was like aggressive in between rounds. And you're like, that's nice. And then he goes out there and he starts really throwing down and he cracks him with his high kick. Roberto just eats it somehow. I mean, it's flush, like top of the foot to the face. He just eats it. They go back. His back's up against the fence. He jumps up, throws a jumping switch knee, drops him. He falls back, goes to plant with his right hand. The right hand slides out from underneath him and he ends up on his arm. He goes to plant up to get up. It happens again. They call the fight. It's a bad stoppage, in my opinion. He goes down from the knee, the flying knee, which is very cool. The flush flying knee, he eats that. You can't eat a high kick and then a flying knee. That's insane. So he goes down. I think they stopped it because of the way his arm folded, which is totally fair. I understand it, but I don't think he was finished yet. I mean, he immediately he gets back up and he's in on a single leg on the ref, and people will say, if you single leg a ref, you probably should stop it, but if you watch the exchange, the ref kind of like inserted himself as he was already shooting. So it's not like he didn't stay on it very long. He immediately realized this guy's wearing fucking pants and looks up and is like, God, what the fuck are you doing? So yeah, I don't know. Not a great stoppage. Would it have changed anything? I don't know. Who knows? We've seen guys recover from worse before, but that's not Cuamba's fault. He hits him with that nice high kick and a jumping switch knee, and he gets the knockout, and that's very cool. So shout out to Cuamba, especially after losing that first round to uncork that in the second is really fucking cool. But that's it. And then we'll move on to the last fight. Joselyne Edwards versus Chelsea Chandler. Is this Chelsea Chandler's first fight at the weight class? She was up at 145, right? No, she fought Yana Santos at 135. She fought Joselyne Nunez at 135. Okay, it's her third fight. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. Forgive me if I'm not keeping up with the Chelsea Chandler career. But maybe I won't have to after this one. No disrespect. But man, Joselyne Edwards just walked it. There's literally two pictures of this fight that they posted. She walks her down up against the fence and cracks her with the left hand. She goes down, she beats her up on the ground, and it's over. It was really just kind of like, okay, did we need that? But yes, I guess we did. So congrats to Edwards, and shout out to Bradley Smoke. Never thought I would pull for Bilal, but if he fights Garry, I hope he smashes him. Look, I've become a Bilal truther. I was not a huge Bilal fan for the majority of his come up, but I have come around to the fact that I think the guy is very impressive, and I'm excited to see his fights now. I think he's a master game planner. His fight IQ, I think, is off the charts, and I think Ian Garry's fight IQ is actually very good too. I hate saying it, but I think it is, and I actually really like that matchup. Well, I think is it going to be a barn burner? Probably not, but it is a very interesting fight to me. But yeah, that's it for this card. We had some fights that we lost that I think would have made this fight card even better, and it was a Kansas City event, so it would have been cool to see. They go all out. Well, they kind of go all out. The big one was the Jamal Hill versus Khalil Roundtree. That was supposed to be the main event. That would have been fucking nuts in an arena like this. Say what you will about Jamal Hill. I know he's very polarizing, but the guy has never had a boring fight. And Khalil Roundtree comes to crack. I think that fight would have been top tier entertainment, but we didn't get it. And now I think they're doing it again. They rebooked it, right? I believe they rebooked it for UFC Fight Night in Azerbaijan. That's right. Yeah, they're going to Azerbaijan, and that's the main event. So we'll still get it. But yeah, that was the big one that we lost on this card, which would have helped. And then bonuses. Zhang Mingyang got one for beating up Anthony Smith in front of his 10 kids and that fat guy that was flipping him off. And Malcolm Wellmaker got one for knocking out Cameron Saaiman. So yeah, he gets to quit his welding job, which is very cool. It's cool when the guys that are like making $10,000 a fight get the bonuses. So yeah, it's a good one. And then Randy Brown versus Nicolas Dalby got fight of the night because obviously that shit was awesome. And that's very good. Austin says Bilal pressures him hard and gets to finish with a round or two. Ian has literally nothing for Muhammad's forward momentum. I don't know. I think his footwork is very good. We'll see. I'm intrigued. But yeah, that's it for this event. Thank you guys for joining. It's weird doing it solo sometimes. Thank you, Rich, for producing this one. Because doing the solo without Rich would be a fucking nightmare. Next week, what do we got? We got a lot next week, actually. We probably won't cover PFL, even though it's one of their bigger ones. They got Phil Davis on there. They got Shoeface. It's okay. I forgot they got fucking Alexander Romanov. It's okay. I'll watch it. If there's anything crazy, we'll talk about it. One Fight Night 31 is going to be going on Friday. Tong Torni versus Nong O. Ty Rotolo versus Dante Leon. That's good. Katastam is back. That's going to be sick. Liam Nolan is back against Trujillo. Semapech is back. Sean Clamacco versus Akif is fucking crazy. Jordan Estupinian is back against Ali Saldayev. Sorry. Very good. It's a fun card. And then the UFC is back in Des Moines, Iowa. So another road trip for the UFC, not an Apex card. We got Corey Sandhagen versus Davison Figueiredo. That's fucking awesome. We got my boy Renner de Ritter against Bo Nickel in the co-main. God, my heart's either going to be crushed or I'm going to be very happy with that one. It's nothing in the middle. Santiago Ponzinibbio is back against Daniel Rodriguez. That's decent. Montel Jackson is back. That's very good against Daniel Marcos. That should be a good fight. That's one to keep your eye out for. City versus Smotherman could be fun. Jeremy Stevens is back in the UFC. He's fighting Mason Jones, who's also back in the UFC. That's a great fight. Misha Tate, what the fuck? Yana Santos versus Misha Tate? What's happening? God damn. Marino Rodriguez versus Jillian Robertson is also very good. Kwang Lee versus Gaston Bolaños is good. Yeah, good. There's some very good fights this weekend coming up. So we'll have some fun on Sunday. It's fun when the fights are good and we can talk about them on Sunday and actually be excited to talk about them. And that's what we'll get. But that's it for this episode. Thank you, everybody, for joining. I appreciate you joining in the chat because, once again, when it's solo like this, if you're talking to nobody, it's a lot harder to get through. So I appreciate you guys in the chat. And like I said before, if you're wondering, how's this guy doing this stream with all these pictures and these clips that are popping up and all this shit? It's because we got the boy, Richard Bustos. Making it go smooth. But yes, thank you again. Make sure you like, subscribe, all that stuff. Thanks again, everybody in the chat, for watching another week. Story of the Fight.